Oh, Vanguard players, we all come from the same cloth. Everyone came from the anime, was raised by the anime, and some are no longer with the anime, and some, like myself, have been with the anime forever. And I feel like the Vanguard TCG player base, as well as like the anime community of Vanguard, are kind of separate, and they kind of just like mind their own business and don't really interact. But I've always kind of felt like I was in between those, and if anything, like in my first half a year of playing Vanguard, I actually didn't know that there was a locals in my city. I just played trial decks with my brother and was basically just an anime Andy. Like I basically just really followed the anime. I was like in the anime community on like Tumblr and stuff like that, and was just like a super big Vanguard anime fan, like huge Ren fanboy, like Ren and Asaka shipper and all that kind of stuff. And you know, I feel like sometimes, you know, I'll try to interact with some of like the anime community from Vanguard and feel like, you know, like there's like a barrier because I play the card game competitively, right? So in today's video, we're gonna break down some barriers, and I'm going to rate all of the Vanguard anime series that have released until now. So at the time of making this video, that is Overdress season 2. So we're technically 4 seasons of the D era done. So we're gonna talk about that today and rate them. And it's gonna get pretty heated. I think it's gonna be a very, very exciting time because, of course, these are my opinions. This is how I rate these seasons and how I feel about them. But I'm curious to see how people will feel about it. And let's jump into it, shall we? And before we do that, make sure you're subscribed. Just check real quick if you are. Maybe some of you don't even have a YouTube account when you're watching this. Go make a YouTube account and then subscribe. Because how else am I gonna reach 100K subscribers doing Vanguard content? I need you at full support, so let's get it. So let's get into it and rate the Vanguard anime seasons. So here we go. We have every single season chronologically. So I'm covering some of them, but basically it is the entirety of the original series. I'm including Neon Messiah, the movie that connects the original series and G. Then we have the entire G era, the V era, and then the Overdress era. And I'm also including this Bermuda spin-off anime, not including Minivan. So Minivan I felt like was kind of hard to categorize because people probably have seen like random episodes but not necessarily like whole seasons. So we are going to be including Neon Messiah because I feel like it is part of it. If is in here, I'm covering it. If is in here, it's part of the V era, so we'll talk about that too. So the categories I've established are peak. So peak is literally like, this is the king of TCG anime, the king of freaking like hobby anime, right? So, or like just, you know, it's something that's like we owe as Vanguard players to this season for being so good, right? Everyone remembers how good this season was. Then one of the best is like for those that are just barely off, like still like really, really good watch, like, oh my god, I really liked it, but there's just like something missing where it's like a really good watch, but not necessarily like, you know, the best. It's one of the best, but it's not like peak of all time. And then very good is just like, you know, a very enjoyable experience. And then I have a missed potential one, and I think there's definitely a few seasons in here that are missed potential that we'll talk about as well. And then of course there are some bads, and then didn't watch. So I'm gonna get the didn't watch out of the way immediately because there's only one that I didn't watch, which is the Bermuda Triangle one. So I didn't watch the Bermuda Triangle anime, slightly regret it because some of my favorite voice actresses debuted in this, I think. But that's like literally the only reason. I think I haven't heard too much about the anime just because it, like, a lot of people were saying it's not very good. So I didn't really feel like putting in the time to watch it either, because I watch card game anime for like the card game action and drama between the characters, not for like slice of life schoolgirls, you know. I feel like I'd watch Bocce the Rock if I wanted to, if I wanted to experience that instead. So we're just gonna get the didn't watch out of the way immediately. But moving forward, Vanguard season 1, where it all began. Now, where would you put Vanguard season 1? This is the one that started everything, the one that began it all, that we owe our lives to, that got us into the entire series. I see peaks, I see mids, I see very goods, one of the best. I was really debating between these two because I'll start off here. It has flaws. It's not a perfect season. There's a lot of filler, especially in the first half, that quite a few people dropped it for, but it was very unconventional. I think it was the first ever card game anime that approached a card game anime as like a tournament anime, as like a hobby anime that like you build, you go to locals, you play tournaments, you build up your collection, you like learn things, and then the kind of like supernatural stuff got involved after that. But I think while it had its flaws, we wouldn't be here without it. We wouldn't be here without it, and the highest of highs are still in here. The end is in here. Like a lot of Ren's like coolest moments are in here. Like Misaki's like Baindo that people still say to this very day was in here. Like there is just so much that sources from the first ever season of the Vanguard anime that I think is, we just have to like believe in my existence. My friend Ethan Hexter, he is one of the Pokemon TCG commentators. Ethan one day messages me and he was like, dude, I had Spotify playing random recommended tracks and Believe in My Existence comes off, and I was like, this is a Vanguard opening? He was like, this is the best song I've heard in my life. I was like, that's right, it is a Vanguard opening. Like this, there is too much good things in the first series that has determined how Vanguard will be for the rest of its existence. And that's just, it just has to be in peak. It just has to be in peak. Asia Circuit though, where are we putting Asia Circuit? I don't think it's peak. Let me put it that way. Asia Circuit is like, it's very close to missed potential, but it had some really good moments. Like Asia Circuit was a really weird time, especially if you were a English speaking Vanguard fan, because I think I'll quickly zoom in here a little bit. What was weird about Asia Circuit is that Crunchyroll was doing the subtitles for Vanguard Season 1, and when Asia Circuit started, Bouchard or whoever was responsible didn't renew the subtitling license or whatever. So the first few episodes of Asia Circuit, we had no subtitles. It was all just like raw upload. We literally had to wait like quite a while, and I don't know why they didn't renew that license. Cause like, this was when Vanguard was coming out in English, was like when Asia Circuit was airing. They even changed the English release schedule to like release Azel and Vermilion first before like Tsukuyomi and stuff. So I feel like Asia Circuit as a season though was a lot of weird beats, very predictable, where it's like, okay, here's the Asia Circuit, here's a bunch of places you're gonna go and play, you're gonna lose in all of them and then win in the last one. But while it was a pretty weird one, it had some really good moments. I think Leon was a cool character. Freaking Great Ayusha happens in this season, and like I think honestly Kote's moments definitely salvage some of the worst seasons. But I think Asia Circuit, I wouldn't put it in missed potential. I think it's a very good season still, because also it still had a very hype Jam Project opening. It still had like some really good fights too, and overall, like, you guys remember the beach episode? Like a lot of people went crazy about the beach episode when that first came out. Oh my god, I still remember how the community looked on that day, dude. Everyone was like, oh my god, dude, it's like we're getting all these characters like in like swimsuits, it's insane, like all this kind of stuff, like training in the beach, like all that kind of stuff. Like it's still, those are like memes that have been like with the community since then. So I would say this had enough of a cultural impact. But then we get on to Link Joker. Link Joker, I think, doesn't even have to be said. It is peak. Link Joker is peak. There is, oddly enough, when Link Joker started, it was, people considered it slightly filler, because why is it all high school, all this like high school slice of life? Where is like the exciting action and the tournaments and stuff, blah, blah, blah. But it quickly revved up and became an insane journey and a really, really good season. Like, this is like the benchmark for peak Vanguard anime, in my opinion. Some of the best openings as well. Like, I really liked, you know, the early ones, like the Psychic Lover ones were really good, but Break Your Spell was like, whew, god damn, dude. There was so much good stuff in this. Like, the entire high school art was just amazing, and I think a lot of people feel very much like attached to you know, attached to the Link Joker season for that reason as well, and I think it's just incredibly well done. So was a big fan, and this was probably like the peak of the popularity of Vanguard in Japan as well, was this era specifically. So it's also one of the more expensive times of the game, because I remember like Chaos Breakers, super expensive, Minerva super expensive, Dauntless super expensive, like any meta deck was like hundreds of dollars. Like in general, early Vanguard was really expensive. Not talking about PGs even. So people complain about Vanguard now being expensive. Back then it was impossible to afford, and the average player back then was a high schooler, so it was like, whew. So, but yes, that's not talking about the game too much. That's, the anime itself was just, mwah, chef's kiss. Would have been the perfect end for OG Vanguard. It could have been, but it did not, because we got the Legion Mate season. Where are we putting Legion Mate? So Legion Mate had a pretty good opening. Missed potential, bottom of very good, best. I myself, I'm gonna put in missed potential. I think the idea of making Kai a protagonist was so cool. I was like, oh my god, that's so exciting. But then a lot of the characters introduced were super cool, but it just felt like they weren't sure what they were doing with it. And there was like no real rhyme or reason. Like when Kai was using Royals, I feel like when I was watching the season, I was expecting so much from it. So I was like, oh my god, we're gonna get all this like nostalgia, and Kai is gonna get like, you know, super emotional about like, oh my god, I'm reunited with Blaster Blade and like all this kind of stuff. But he just kind of like fumbles around with Royals for a while, and then like goes like, never mind, I'm gonna play Kagero anyway, and let's go to the moon. And it's like, what? Why is the moon here all of a sudden? So especially as like the last season of the era, it definitely felt like a bit of missed potential. And I don't know, in general, it feels like a lot of things like, yeah, Misaki never won a match. Like the one thing that would push this a little bit up would be like the Daikaiser moment. The freaking Daikaiser moment. It was still a good season. I still enjoyed it, but there was definitely a lot of questions in this season for me. So definitely would put it here, I think, as our first entry of missed potential. But then we have Neon Messiah. So how many of you in chat actually watched this movie? So I actually own Neon Messiah on DVD, so I watched it a few times. And I think for a brief moment it was like available on with subs too. I did. Very good. I watched it. All right, where would you put Neon Messiah? I think the Neon Messiah movie was pretty enjoyable. It was a nice way to tie in some of the manga stuff like Ibuki that didn't exist in the anime. It was mid, not good, pretty okay, fine. Final Fight was so good. Yeah, I think it's like somewhere like low, very good, I guess. So I don't want to add too many categories, but it was overall an enjoyable experience. There was quite a lot of fan service in it. You have to keep in mind it's a 2-hour movie, right? Like how much can you put in a 2-hour card game movie, right? You know, you look at the One Piece movie or like the Gridman movie. I went to see the Gridman movie like 4 or 5 times, but like it's a card game movie. You got to take time to do fights and stuff. Like those take up like multiple episodes at a time. So like the pacing was pretty wild, but I feel like we got some good fan service. We got some overall cool fights, cool scenes and character introductions. So I think Neon Messiah was pretty all right. Kind of like same kind of levels as Asia Circuit, more or less. Yeah, it wasn't outstanding, but it wasn't awful. It was just like decent. Should we make, I don't want to clutter with categories. It's like the one thing I'm always just like, just like feel a little bit bad, but it was a nice spectacle. A mid area. All right, we'll add a mid. There we go. Neon Messiah, confirmed mid. So moving forward into the G era. So G season 1, where is this gonna go to? So G season 1, don't forget, G season 1 had no proper fights. It was all action and character drama. So some people saying mid, good, one of the best. We're seeing quite a few mids. Not a lot of very good, surprisingly. Has Kanzaki, goated, very good. I'm putting it in one of the best. I really enjoyed the first season of G. While I also was part of the group complaining, it's like, oh, why don't we have proper fights and stuff like that? I think the characterization was really powerful. I think I got attached to the characters pretty quickly, and overall, I think that it was a very enjoyable introduction to the next era of Vanguard. I think they showed the fights were really cool, and they showed off the units in a really nice way. And I think I really liked what they were doing with like Card Capital 2 and kind of like very lightly teasing some of the old characters as well without necessarily like relying on them outside of like Kamui and Shin. So, and I guess Misaki as well. So I honestly quite enjoyed it. I think it's one of the best seasons, but it was just a good entry into G, I would say. Overall, a very nice thing. So then moving on, we have Gears Crisis and Stride Gate, and I always mix up the two. I'm pretty sure that I want to say Gears Crisis comes first. I know the content of the seasons, I mix up the names. Gears comes first, right? I'm pretty sure Gears Crisis comes first. Let's talk about Gears Crisis. So Gears Crisis was the one basically where they started to have, so this is when the whole Stridegate like crisis was starting to come up, and a lot of the old characters were coming back and basically starting to prepare the characters, the new characters for the dangers, right? So Rummy Labyrinth was introduced here, and also this is where we had like Kamui versus Chrono. This is where we had freaking Kai beating up Shion with every single Overlord. This season is so much better than you remember it. This is also like, yeah, this is like Shion's entire arc happens in this season. This season has so much in it. This, I feel like I want to put this in peak. Like, I sometimes forget how good this season was, because also this is when the fights started to ramp up as well. But boy, was Gears Crisis good. And then after that, you have another banger season of Stridegate. Stridegate is where the whole, like, you know, this is Shinonome versus Shion comes to a culmination with like the Rock. This is where you basically have like, you know, Myojin Ryuzu and his entire thing going on. This was a really cool season with a lot of drama. Like Luna and a lot of people got really attached to Luna and in this season as well. But where are we putting it? I feel like I liked Gears Crisis a bit more than it, because it felt like it gave me a lot throughout the entire thing. Shion didn't break the Rock broke him. Oh no, not as good as Gears. I think, yeah, it's like, I'll probably put it like around here, like a bit above season 1 of G, but I think Gears Crisis actually had more, it felt like a more complete package as a season, whereas this felt like the ending of Gears Crisis in a way. So yeah, I think I would even combine the two of them. I'm not sure why they split them into 2 different seasons. I think they could have been 1 season and just been a beautiful combined package. But this one felt like it was just like a finale season in a way. So it definitely felt like a little bit was missing. And then we move on to G next. So the high school arc of G. And you guys know me, I really like this season. I used to say that this is like my favorite like season of all time, but I know that that's a very highly contested opinion. I know a lot of people, and I like honestly looking back at it, I also think, yeah, maybe I'm overhyping it a little bit. But this season introduces Henry. It introduces Henry, who has one of the coolest character growths. I feel like it takes a lot of the characters that were introduced in the G series and lets them grow to their full extent. There's just so much character growth in G Next that I absolutely love, and I think it's an amazing season. It didn't hit the same. I think also they changed animation studios with starting from G Next, and that was probably the biggest bummer. So I think if I was gonna do like a completely subjective tier list, it would be like, I would probably put it here. But being more objective, I'm probably putting G Next over here. Like, I really love G Next, but it definitely does have flaws that I feel like I was kind of just like ignoring for a while. Yeah, like episode 1 has like audio issues in it as well. Overall, I really love this season. I really like the season myself, but I do feel like it's like, if we're talking objectively, it does have flaws. It does have flaws for sure, but I just really love the characters and I love what they were doing with G Next. And then the finale of the G era, GZ. Where are we putting GZ? The culmination, the very rushed culmination of the G era. Some people saying peak. Very good, missed potential. I agree. I think much like the first finale season, GZ was also missed potential. I think it just felt, there was some really cool stuff, like Zeroth introductions were super cool. Some of the fights were really awesome. Like the 2v1 against Chaos with Aichi and Kai was like super cool. But there was just like, it felt like they took some of the coolest characters, like freaking Henry, and just like threw them at a wall. Didn't do anything with them. Like Gastille insta losing. I don't know. There was a lot of things that I wish they could have done better with this season. The soundtrack was amazing. That's one thing, but like half the cast got done dirty. The finale was really cool, but overall it just feels like the same. The finale seasons both just feel kind of like half-baked in a way. And then, so that wraps up the entire of like the original era of Vanguard. So in Japan, so you have like the G era, And then Aichi's era is actually called the Muji area. So Muji means no symbol. So it's like symbol-less. So it also like, you know, the brand Muji. So like that's literally the same. So it's like the symbol-less era, and then the G era, the V era, and now the D era. So we now enter the V era. And I'm sorry, V era bros, but I'm not even asking for opinions, bro. This shit is straight up doo-doo. The V anime took what I loved and chucked it in the bin. I'm putting this a bit above. I think the first season, it tried to take Ito Sensei's manga, which I think as a manga was very fun to read. It took it and it just blazed through it in the weirdest manner. It felt like it did a disservice to Ito Sensei's own works. And I found that so weird. I found that so weird because like I read the manga, I read the entire manga myself, and I was like, this is a pretty fun read. Like I own the entirety of it. And then they turn it into a manga and then add like the Koshien arc is like, whoa, this original, not in the manga arc, and made it even worse. Like, oh my god. You know, the new animation style as well just felt different. I don't know, I didn't really like it either. I feel like it's like the best part of the anime was Kai versus Kote. I feel like maybe there was something else that I liked, but I literally have to pick my entire brain and think, was there anything I liked? Kai loses, like, oh my god, like the animation felt goofy. It's just, the V era was not great. The V era was not great. It feels like they took a lot of the characters and just made them one-dimensional. They took like Leon and turned him into a babby with like one single personality trait. Asaka-san lipstick was nice. Yeah, Asaka was like just like straight up freaking, like she went from being an amazing character to one of the best characters. So like there's some really good things. Like Asaka in a ponytail, clap it up, clap it up. That shit was like, whoo, it had me going crazy. But that was like reasons to keep me watching, is like some of the new character designs. But overall, it just felt like a freaking, you took what I loved and you just pushed it into traffic. Like, oh my god, dude, oh my god. But that's not all the V era arc, because we have Shinemon. Shinemon is part of the V era, and Shinemon is a good ass season. Shinemon is a good ass season. You cannot tell me otherwise. Shinemon randomly, I don't know if I would put it higher than very good. People want to put it as peak. I think we might be, part of the reason why we might want to put it as peak is, damn, people really want to put it as peak. I might be willing to put it, you know, rank it up a little higher, but I think part of the reason why we feel like it was peak is because people forget how mid the first half was. The first half was literally just like fan service, and it was like funny to watch, I guess. And it hit the wall in the second half. And it was also because we had to deal with like a year and a half or like 2 years of like the horrible V series anime for them to finally give us something good. But I think I'm gonna stick with my opinion of Shinemon being up here. I don't think it really stands up to the trifecta of G, but I think that the Shinemon anime actually tied up the entire Vanguard series in a really cool way. It actually tied up the loose end between like the end of the original series going into G. Like it tied up that little gap between the original and G and explained everything that happened and like why like all the events of G made even more sense after Shinemon. And I think that was amazing. I really liked that. So I think Shinemon was very good for that. Very, very good for that. And then If. So I didn't finish If, but I did watch If. And I think If was fun. It was a fun watch. I enjoyed it. I got some laughs out of it. I think Suiko and Ibuki's relationship in it was incredible. But I think overall just kind of mid. I think it was, second half is better than the first half. I think they're both good. Bottom are very good. Yeah, I could be willing to push it up a little bit. I enjoyed it more than the average person. I enjoyed it more than the average person. My mods are abusing their ability to spam, but I think it was, so I remember when If was happening, the end, you know, Bushard said, you either get no anime or you get this while we work on the next thing. And boy, were they cooking. But they were cooking in the budget, which took a little, like, they were cooking and it took a little it took a little time to turn into flavor. Because then we enter the Overdress era. In Overdress season 1, that pilot episode, we were like, damn, y'all really cooked. And then they just like splashed water on the pan and it just kind of like started sizzling a little bit. Overdress season 1 goes in the missed potential aisle for me. Overdress season 1 had so many expectations and hopes riding on it. It had a really cool pilot episode, but I feel like I don't know what audience they were making this anime season for. I feel like they were trying to make it for an anime season. Like they were trying to make it for a new audience that it didn't click with, and it also didn't necessarily click with the actual like viewers either. And it took a while to actually like rev up into its own thing. Episode 6 was peak. Yes, Toya's episode was peak, but there were just so many missed beats throughout the thing. And the fights weren't exactly super great either. I thought Vanguard was dead because of Overdress season 1. Yeah, like some people felt that. You're not the only one. And I think that just in general, there was... Now, I wouldn't say there's 10 episodes of filler. There's definitely quite a few good episodes in season 1. But with how many hopes that were riding on this season, there was more to be expected. There was more to be expected. But luckily, they cooked. Sometimes you don't have to make instant noodles if you're cooking and you want instant success. Sometimes cooking takes a bit because then they make peak. Overdress season 2 is peak. That shit is just, mwah, that is beauty. They went and made one of the best entries in the Vanguard animated universe of all time. Season 2 of Overdress is peak. They went and was like, all right, we established these characters. Here is this character we hinted at the end of season 1. And now we're gonna make you so invested, you're gonna be crying, you're gonna be bawling. You're gonna have bags under your eyes, you are gonna be invested, you're gonna follow the entire thing. We're gonna show you manipulation, we're gonna show you fights, we're gonna show you the most banger OST you've ever heard. And it is just incredible. The fact that people refuse to watch Overdress season 2 and go like, I love Overdress is so cool. You do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor and watch season 2. I don't care how you feel about season 1. Season 2 Overdress is peak. They did, dude, pelvic thrusting. That's definitely how I describe Overdress season 2. Like, they started to do card reveals through the anime in this season. They revealed the grade 4s through the anime. This shit was so good. Oh my god. Actual peak, and Mirei has to be the face of the season because you owe it to her, dude. Mirei and Nakashima Yuki's performance as Mirei is just mwah, absolute gorgeous beauty. Absolutely love it. God damn, they cooked. They cooked hella hard, and they kept cooking. Overdress season 1 comes out. Now this one, I want to hear your opinions. Where are we putting Overdress season 1? Because I know a lot of people actually really like Overdress and got back into the Vanguard anime with Overdress. And I think it's a very, very good season. It's a very, very good season. Quite a few people saying peak. Quite a few people saying one of the best. I would agree. I think Overdress season 1 will join the G Kids as one of the best seasons of the Vanguard anime. It had some really cool fights. It had a lot of cool new characters, some characters that didn't speak at all, that were introduced for mysterious reasons. But overall, this was a season. This was a good season. They were like, oh yeah, right. There's a lot of edgelords in Vanguard. We should make an edgelord deck with like a cool character. Let's make Youthberg. Let's make Raika. Bam! $5 Brazilian. They just went absolutely crazy. And this is also when the actual TCG, again, this is a more anime related video, but this is also when the TCG was like, whoo, just like skyrocketing in popularity again. And I think big part of the reason is also this anime season being so successful. So definitely a very good season. And now finally we get to the most recent one at the 30-minute mark, which is Overdress season 2. So this is the most recent one that just ended. And I think overall was a really good one. A very, very good one. Some people, damn, quite a few are seeing peak. The fights were peak. Seeing some mids, good or above, very good. America arc missed potential. Yeah, I think they could have done the America part a little bit better. But I think overall, this season, oh, I don't know, man. I'm debating. It's between peak and one of the best for me. I think I liked it more than Overdress season 2. I might be willing to put it over G next. Overdress Season 2 was very good. Overdress Season 2 was very good, and it's one of those seasons where we've had time now to get used to all these. So it's like they kind of, you'll notice this pattern that we've had so far, where it's like Season 1 of Overdress introduced the characters, and then Season 2 made you cry for Mide. Season 1 of Overdress introduced all these characters, Season 2 made you cry for Michiru, right? Stuff like that. Not better than GNX? Yeah, maybe that is also putting it a little bit over it. But I think that overall the Overdress package is very good. I have very high hopes for Season 3. I think Season 3 is also, because it's going to keep building on it, I think it's going to also deliver very well, and it's going to be pretty exciting to see where it goes. So I'm wondering to see, you know, this Overdress arc with like the, you know, uniformers, how many arcs will it go on for? Will we have 4 seasons of it? 5, 6? Like, I think they're planning to make a lot of Vanguard anime for quite a while, so let's see. But I'm also curious to see like how long will Yu Yu's arc go on for. Like, I don't think he's even in, is he even in high school yet? Because usually Vanguard series, as you'll notice, go through a middle school and then a high school arc. And so I think Yu Yu has not entered high school. Oh, he has? Okay. But I feel like, they're not emphasizing that enough to push him being a high schooler, so I suppose we are in that kind of like Link Joker era of the D series right now, so we'll see. But you know, you look at all these entries and it's actually like, you know, the D series will have the most amount of entries. This is going to be the longest one, and I think we are going to get a protagonist switch at some point, so we're going to get the G era of D era in a way. We're definitely going to get a protagonist switch. They're not going to milk Yu Yu forever, but I think overall this is how I rate the Vanguard animes. So what do you think? How would you rate it? I can leave a link in the description to this tier list. You can do it yourself too and let me know your thoughts. But I think overall, it's pretty good. We have the peak entries that would not change. I think these are indeed the peak. And I do think that, like, I go back and rewatch episodes from Overdress Season 2 a lot. Like, that is a master. There's not a single missed beat in that season. It's so beautiful. And then, you know, these seasons are all like super enjoyable watches. Very, very good. Like, I think these could easily be in peak as well, you know, depending on who you ask. And then the very good ones are like all enjoyable, kind of like popcorn, you know, like, yeah, I'll watch it. I have good memories of it. The movie was mid, you know, M for movie. Missed potential, we definitely have a few missed potentials. A bit of a shame to have the first season of Overdress be a missed potential one, but it is what it is. And then sadly, V-Series I'm not a big fan of, and sadly did not watch the lyrical one or the Bermuda one. So that is it for this tier list for the Vanguard anime. We might come back to this eventually in a few years after we get more entries into the D series, maybe after Yu Yu's journey is over and we move on to the next protagonist of the D era. So we'll see where things go as well. And of course, the secret peak minivan, that is everyone's favorite. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Which season would you rate differently, or do you agree with my tier list to a T? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're a anime friend from Vanguard, feel free to join us, you know, in the TCG side. We don't bite, especially I think my community doesn't really bite. So you're always welcome, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below as well. But otherwise, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you haven't really, please do subscribe. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.